A young married couple who are passionate about mountaineering decided to conquer another mountain peak. At some point, Becky almost fell off, but managed to make it to her husband. Traveling with the couple is their mutual friend Hunter, who pokes fun at them. Suddenly Dan went off, but thanks to the safety rope, he hung on. However, the rope didn't hold for long, and the guy fell down from a great height in front of the girls. 51 weeks have passed. Becky's father left her a voice message saying that he really wants to help her, but doesn't know how. In the meantime, Becky is getting drunk in a bar, trying to drown her sorrow. She still calls Dan's phone number, leaving him voice messages. Exiting the bar, Becky was very drunk. She was met by the worried father who wants his daughter to let go of her grief. She experienced a terrible tragedy, but life doesn't end there. However, Becky cannot come to terms with the loss and asks the father to leave her alone. At home, she cried and called Dan's phone number again. Then out of desperation, she decided to reunite with her beloved by picking up a vial of pills. However, Becky's plans are thwarted by a call from Hunter. Soon the friend appeared on her doorstep and told her about an extreme idea for which she needed a partner. Hunter confessed to Becky that it was her father's idea. This weekend, they could climb the tallest decommissioned television tower in the country together and scatter Dan's ashes from the top of it. Becky doubts that she can do it, as she hasn't been rock climbing since Dan's demise. The girl cannot overcome her fear of heights, which took away the most precious thing in her life. However, in the morning, after looking at the box with Dan's ashes, Becky changed her mind. The friends immediately set out on the journey. Hunter has since become a blogger, gathering many subscribers on her channel. The money she gets is enough to travel. The girls asked the waitress at a roadside diner how to get to the tower, and it turned out to be very close. In the next year, the tower is going to be demolished, so Hunter intends to take advantage of this opportunity before it's too late. At night, Becky dreamt of Dan, whom she loves more than life itself. Waking up from the nightmare, the girl heard her friend's voice, saying that it was time to go. Hunter recorded everything on camera to upload it to her channel. Since the road was blocked, the girls had to walk the last stretch. Soon the friends arrived at their destination. The tower turned out to be much higher than Becky had imagined. Hunter was full of enthusiasm and recorded videos for her subscribers, while Becky tried to cope with her panic. She told her friend that she couldn't do it. Hunter reassured her, saying that she shouldn't let fear take over. This would be a turning point for both of them since the day Dan died. Hunter climbed up first. Trying to overcome her fear, Becky climbed up the shaky rusty ladder behind her friend. At some point, one of the ladder steps broke off and fell. But despite this, Becky continued to climb up, unaware that the construction bolts were gradually loosening. Halfway up, the girls decided to take a break. They are now at the height of the Eiffel Tower.
Please don't say shit like that, Hunter.
The girls continued to climb up. Soon the inner staircase ended. The remaining distance for the friends was to climb up the outer staircase, beyond the framework of the structure. Due to fear, Becky closed her eyes, saying she couldn't do it. Hunter advised her not to look to the sides and down, only up. Gathering her courage, Becky finally followed her friend. Contrary to Hunter's advice, Becky looked down and was horrified. To distract herself, she started singing a children's song out aloud. However, it didn't help. Becky pleaded with Hunter to go down, but she couldn't let the friend succumb to her fear. Suddenly, one of the bolts holding the ladder flew out of the structure and fell, but the girls paid no attention. Finally, their journey came to an end. At that moment, another bolt came off the ladder. The view from the top of the tower was fantastic. The friends took selfies and filmed videos with a quadcopter. It seemed their venture was a success. Hunter decided to take an extreme photo shoot by hanging straight on the structure.
Now the ultimate Bex. Your turn.
At first she refused to do it, but the friend persuaded her to act despite her fear. Only then will she stop living in the past. With the support of her friend, Becky also hung on the structure. Hunter took cool selfies that would garner a huge number of likes. The girls felt completely free and fearless. Becky thanked her friend for this adventure, which helped her overcome her main fear. It was time to say goodbye to Dan forever. Becky, who couldn't hold back her tears, gave a farewell speech and scattered her beloved's ashes into the wind from the height of the tower. Hunter also couldn't hold back and cried. They both still can't believe that Dan is no longer with them. Having accomplished what they had planned, the girls decided it was time to descend. With the help of her friend, Becky descended the stairs when suddenly the structure finally shook and collapsed. Becky hung on the safety rope held by Hunter. The girl was not confused, and tying a rope around the peak of the tower, began to pull her friend up. At some point, the rope began to slip down with Becky, but Hunter managed to grab it again. Becky was still able to climb up. The friends had a bout of hysterical laughter. They could not believe that this was happening for real. Since the ladder collapsed, the girls were trapped at a great height. There is no signal here, so they can't call anyone to ask for help. Becky found binoculars and a signal rocket. The rest of their things, including water, remained in a backpack that got caught on a satellite dish. Hunter is confident that there is no reason to panic. Someone must have heard the rumbling and called the police. Only now did Becky notice the wound on her leg. Due to shock, she did not feel the pain immediately. Now the girls can only wait for help. To pass the time, they recorded everything on video. Unfortunately, they cannot post it on the internet now. Hunter confessed that she started the blog because of Dan. That incident showed her the fleeting nature of life. 5 hours have passed, but there is still no help. Hunter had an idea. There should be a signal slightly below, so if they lower the phone by some distance, they can send a message. The girls did just that. Judging by the lack of sound signal, the message was not sent, so there is still no connection. Then Hunter decided to take her chances and descended the remnants of the stairs as low as she could. However, this did not help either. Hunter had no choice but to return to the platform. The friends decided to drop the phone on the ground, where there is definitely a signal. To prevent the smartphone from breaking, they placed it in a sneaker. Dropping the phone, the girls started waiting again. Suddenly Becky saw a tattoo on her friend's leg with a familiar code. However, Becky didn't have time to ask anything because Hunter saw a man with a dog below. The girls began to call for help, but the man didn't hear them. To get his attention, Becky took off her sneakers and threw them. But it didn't help. Becky wanted to launch the flare, but Hunter stopped her because they only had one try. Through her binoculars, Hunter saw another man near the van. When it got dark, Becky watched a video of her wedding with Dan. She only now noticed how sad her friend was that day. When the men were about to leave, the girls launched the flare to get their attention. Fortunately, the men noticed them. The girls were happy, thinking they were saved, but they were in for a cruel disappointment. The men stole Hunter's car and drove off. It seemed like there was no hope for rescue. A signal light was burning on top of the tower for airplanes. Seeing the tattoo on her friend's leg again, Becky said it was their code with Dan, meaning "I love you." Seeing no point in hiding it, Hunter admitted that she had a secret affair with Dan. She also loved him very much, but he married Becky. This caused Hunter immense pain. At dawn, the girls continued their conversation. Hunter felt very guilty towards her friend. But there was nothing she could do about it, because she loved Dan. It was unbearable for her to see her best friend and beloved together. Becky couldn't believe that the husband had betrayed her. She took off her wedding ring and hung it on the chain. It had been a day since they dropped the phone. This meant that the message had not been sent. In addition to everything else, the girls had no water. Checking if the rope reached the satellite dish, Hunter intended to get the backpack with water and quadcopter. Despite everything, Becky was very worried about the friend. Apologizing to her again, Hunter began to descend at her own risk. It was very dangerous because the entire structure was smooth, with almost nothing to hold on to. Hunter almost fell off, but she managed to hold on. However, the rope didn't reach. Then Hunter decided to take a desperate step. She took off her safety rope, and hanging on it, jumped onto the satellite dish. Hunter picked up the backpack, trying to figure out how to climb back up. The staircase had completely collapsed, so the only chance was to reach for the rope again. Using the selfie stick, Hunter managed to hook the backpack onto the loop. Now she had to make a leap to grab onto the backpack. Luckily, she succeeded. The girls had to work as a team to survive. Becky pulled the rope while Hunter climbed to the top. The goal was almost reached when suddenly Hunter went off. Becky thought it was all over, but she felt relieved to see that Hunter had managed to get a grip on the backpack. Since Hunter had injured her hands, she couldn't climb anymore. Becky had to pull the rope on her own. Finally, the friends reunited. They now had water and the quadcopter. Leaving a note requesting rescue, they launched the drone towards the motel. The friends realized too late that the battery was almost dead. They had to quickly return the quadcopter before it fell. Now they had to come up with a way to recharge the device. Waking up at night, Becky didn't see Hunter next to her and panicked. Turning on the flashlight on her phone, Becky desperately called out for her friend. Hungry vultures circled around her. Hearing scary sounds, Becky slowly turned her head to the side and saw the lifeless friend with horror. It turned out to be just a nightmare. Becky had an idea of how to recharge the quadcopter. They could use a popular method from the internet. The next morning, Becky gathered her courage to climb to the top of the TV tower. At some point, due to weakness, Becky was ready to stop, but the friend encouraged her in every way possible. Gathering her strength, Becky reached the top of the tower. The base was very hot, so she had to be careful. The wire turned out to be too short. Becky used her engagement ring as a conductor for the current. Now the most important thing for Becky was to hold on long enough to charge the device. Her hands weakened, but the girl bravely endured. It was their only chance for salvation. Becky's wound attracted the vultures, which began to circle around the tower. Because of this, the backpack fell. Becky clung to the tower, waiting for the device to fully charge. When it was done, Becky went downstairs. The girls decided to wait until 10 in the morning, because that was when the motel had the most people around. Looking at the wedding photo on her phone, Becky saw her father in the background. Now she understands that he was right about Dan and was trying to help her. Due to hunger, the girl began to lose consciousness. To bring friend back to her senses, Hunter started to distract her with conversation. At 10 in the morning, the girls sent the quadcopter with the note towards the motel. They almost succeeded, but suddenly a truck hit the drone. The driver went out to check what was wrong, but didn't notice the wreckage of the device. Becky cried in despair, realizing that it was all over for them. The vultures were already waiting for their prey, eager to feast. A thunderstorm was approaching. Becky could no longer fight her sleepiness, unlike Hunter, who surprisingly looked lively. At some point, Becky felt something was wrong and realized that her friend was no longer alive. It turned out that when Hunter fell, she didn't manage to grab the backpack and collapsed downward. Becky's brain blocked these memories because she didn't want to believe it really happened. All this time Becky was alone on the tower. When it happened, she pulled out the backpack, but her friend's body remained below, on the satellite dish. Becky cried out of desperation, realizing that she had lost yet another person dear to her. At night, a hurricane started. Becky looked at photos and videos from the family archive, and then recorded a farewell message for her father. He was trying to call her at that time. Morning came. A vulture landed next to Becky to feast. Suddenly the girl grabbed the bird and didn't let go, despite its desperate resistance. Now the vulture had become food. Becky needed strength to survive. Using the rope, Becky descended to the satellite dish where Hunter was lying. Taking the friend's hand, Becky said she loved her. Then, after sending a message to her father, Becky put the phone in the sneaker, which placed inside Hunter, lowering her down. The structure began to sway again. Becky had nothing to do but wait for rescue. Upon receiving the message, Becky's father rushed to the tower. The rescuers had already arrived. Seeing a body on the ground, James had already thought it was Becky. But it turned out that his daughter was alive. They hugged each other. Becky promised her father that she would let go of her past from now on. They went home.